Well, let's get to it. The Houston Astros took control of the AL West, well, maybe by a game, and they head to Boston. Boston's playing better this year, but the Astros have a plan and trying to distance himself beyond the Mariners because their only hopes rest in winning the AL West. Mike Stanton and I are going to break everything down for the Boston Red Sox versus Houston Astros right now.
I'm looking to the bullpen to bring my lefty in. Keep the lead and make your team look pedestrian. It's in your wheelhouse, we'll swing for the fence. You know it's money around here, and I ain't talking expense. Strike one, heater low in the way, you can't hit it. You know you wanna start a rally, but you better forget it. Strike two, off speed, same spot, your car looking. Get ready at the plate, this time you're not cooking. Strike three, swinging out of the zone. You ain't even touch it first. Tell me how they gonna drive you home. Walking back, looking like we ain't cool then. The game's over, might as well put them back to the bullpen, oh yeah.
And we are back. We're back at the bullpen, Mike. It's been a couple days, but the Astros had a successful series in Arlington. You know where to find me, H-Town Wheelhouse on Instagram, on TikTok, and on X. You can find the show Back to the Bullpen at B2 Bullpen on Instagram. You can find us at YouTube, Back to the Bullpen, as well on Spotify and iHeartRadio. Mike Stanton, tell everybody where they can find you, sir.
Well, there's only one place, and that's on X, formerly known as Twitter, and that is at Mike Stanton 29. And we're going to start this podcast off with you being in my doghouse. What is that shirt you are wearing?
Oh my goodness, I didn't even. I didn't even change my clothes, man. You got me.
Oh my goodness!
Wow.
Nah, I'll let it slip this. I'll let it slide.
Man, wow! I didn't even think about it. We either roll to right. I recorded Locked On. I jumped.
It's all right. I'll take care of our advertising today.
There you go. I was like, oh crap! I was thinking, what did I do? Man, you got me.
What
you know what?
Do?
That's right. I teed it up for you, man. Good Lord.
Like always.
It's like throwing Adolis Garcia a changeup, right? Or a curveball.
That's right. That's right.
So the Astros find themselves back on top. The Seattle Mariners, while we're recording this, 10:30 on Thursday evening, they're actually down 3-0. They're in danger of being swept by the Tigers. And I think they play the Tigers for another 3 games in the next few days as well. I think we play the Tigers soon or something like that.
Yeah.
So they don't have an easy schedule. I mean, they have an easier schedule than we do.
Sure.
But the Astros have got to take advantage. The Astros, they go into Boston coming up, and we'll talk to them. But I really want to talk about Yusei Kikuchi, because our first talk about him was his use of the changeup. This time, it was the 4-seam fastball.
Yeah.
So, Mike, what changed from last start to this start?
Well, the biggest change was, he's pitching against a different team. And, you have scouting reports against everyone. And, we had scouting reports when I played, and they were pretty in-depth. They were pretty intricate, but they're nothing compared to what these guys have now. And, there really are no secrets. It's a situation that it's all about execution. And if the pitcher executes the game plan, then he's going to get the hitter out. When he makes a mistake, that's when the ball gets hammered. But what's happened in this situation was you have a offense in the Texas Rangers that kind of hit off-speed pitches pretty well. You mentioned Adolis Garcia. He's a guy that hammers off-speed pitches. So one of the things we know about Yusei Kikuchi is that he's actually got a big fastball. I mean, he gets it up into the mid, even the high 90s. Now, he wasn't throwing that hard the other night, and he did it on purpose. And the reason was because he was really paying attention to location. He wasn't trying. He didn't need to throw the ball as hard as he can if you put the ball where you need to or where you want to. And that's really what he did. It wasn't a huge swing and miss night. Yeah, he had 8 strikeouts, but there was only 12 swing and misses on the night. And so it was one of those things that he only threw about 12% changeups after that being as dominant a pitch as we've seen in a long time in his first start. But this is how it works. It's not when you have multiple weapons You don't need to go in and face everyone the same way. And you got to like the idea that we talked about it, how good his stuff was. And he showed it yet again and did a really nice job of helping the Astros win the series, helping the Astros take care of their interstate rival and
Right.
winning that stupid silver boot.
Wait, hold on. Wait, you mean
Wait, did I say that? I mean
Oh.
that incredible trophy that is called the silver boot. How about that? Is that better?
Oh, it was so funny. They actually showed, I don't know if you saw it, they showed a picture that Julie Morales had of when Hector Neris took all the guys to a Western store and
I
out
saw that. I saw
Western.
that. And you
You
know
know,
what? There's a couple of those guys that you could tell. Jose Urquidy was, he looked right at home
oh,
with the
they
cowboy
let me
hat
tell
on.
you, and
It looked good.
Fromber looked like that kid that got his first pair of cowboy boots and went to the rodeo for the first time. And then, Graveman just looked a little out of place. He looked like
Right.
the businessman trying on boots. It was just
The funny thing is, if you want to know who actually, fits the attire, you need to see him walk. Because someone that is not used to walking in cowboy boots, you can see them right away.
yeah. Well, I may be that guy when I walk in my boots because I don't wear them very often. I am a true city.
Or watch them how they take off their cowboy hat. There's a certain way to do it. There's a certain way not to do it.
That's true. That's true. But the one thing I do
Speaking
like
of cowboy hats, I have a Astros cowboy hat right over here next to me. That
Wow.
is Astros orange.
Well,
Maybe next podcast
maybe you can
I'll break it
that.
out.
There you go. I like that. The thing I like about Yusei Kikuchi is, after the game, he was asked, "Hey, why was your velo down?" Because typically, in the press now, the velocity's down. Oh my gosh, that means he's hurt or something going on. He just said, I just didn't feel the need to. I was getting what I wanted to get from my pitches, and I basically didn't need to empty the tank. And what a breath of fresh air it is to, not that there isn't anybody out there doing this, but it's great to have a veteran guy that is a pitcher rather than a thrower. And, Kikuchi could have come in, even being a veteran, could have felt the pressure, could have been like, okay, this team has been pressing. They have a lot of injuries. They really expect me to perform. That's why they gave up three like valuable pieces for me and all this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But he's come in almost like he's always been here. And that's a type of mindset that can help the Astros if they do make it into the playoffs. And that's a guy that you want as one of your 4 starters in a playoff series, because I think his presence, the way he approaches the game, the way he trusts his catchers. And that's what I've noticed too. He's already seems like he's got a good back and forth with Yiner behind the plate.
Well, there you go again, they've got a lot of baseball to play before we can start talking about a playoff rotation. But the whole idea of him, him not just airing it out every time is, here's what I teach my pitchers. That max effort, yes, I want you to throw max effort, but it's got to be max effort under control. The problem is when you bump up against 100%, you bump up against max effort, that's also the line of out of control. And what we've learned is, and this isn't an Astros thing. This is a Major League Baseball thing. This is actually, we'll even call it just a baseball thing overall, including amateur baseball. Everybody wants max effort. Everybody wants to see the highest velo you can throw. But the problem is velo still doesn't get anybody out. I mean, we saw Aroldis Chapman just yesterday throw a ball 105. Yeah, it was for a strike, but he doesn't have a 0 ERA. It's still about it's real estate. It's still about location. And what he figured out was he turns down the volume one, goes from 10 to 9, okay, or 10 to 9.5. What happens now? Now he knows where the ball's going.
Right.
And now, his 94, 95 is plenty enough velocity, to get big league hitters out when you put it where you want to. And it's a great lesson that I think can be learned all the way across baseball because, max effort, it's one of the reasons why we've had so many arm injuries is because no one has that ability to pitch, and no one teaches it either. It's always grip it and rip it, spin it as fast as you can, throw it as hard as you can, and see what happens when there's still guys, Kyle Hendricks, for the Cubs for all those years. I mean, do so at 88 miles an hour and having really solid major league seasons and a major league career by doing what? By pitching, putting the ball where he wants to, regardless of how good the stuff is.
There's something to be said about the Greg Maddux way of being a starting pitcher and just being the professor on the mound like he was, being able to paint the corners, being able to, like you said,
well, you also have to, people need to, people remember Greg Maddux at the end of his career where he wasn't throwing hard.
True. That's true.
But when he won the 4 National League Cy Youngs in a row, I mean, he wasn't, the hardest thrower in the league, but he wasn't a soft thrower by any measure. I mean, he, even when he came up before he got sent back down with the Cubs, he was actually a very hard thrower, but he got lit and he goes back down, learns to change up, learns to sink the ball, to move the ball around a little bit, not throw max effort and start putting the ball where he wants to. And the dude ends up being one of the best right-handed pitchers we've ever seen.
Yeah, just unbelievable career and did it throughout his career. And I mean, you had a chance to, pitch with some of those guys.
Oh yeah.
I want to ask you this. What is it like when you're in the bullpen and you're surrounded by guys that are, perennial Hall of Fame type pitchers? Is there any more comfort in that, or is it the same pressure no matter who's on the mound, whether it's a Randy Johnson, Greg Maddux, or just some guy who's in the big leagues for a couple years?
Well, it really depends on the individual. It depends on the coach. It depends on the manager, how they work. To tell you the truth, with pitching behind Greg Maddux wasn't usually very easy. And the reason was because Bobby Cox would stick with Greg until the good Lord would have had a tough time getting out of some of these situations, because the way he looked at it was, a tired Greg Maddux is better than anything we have down in the bullpen anyways. And so by the time they would take him out, it's second and third, nobody out, 1-run game. And you have to strike out the side to even sniff getting out of the situation. So, it really just depends on what's going on and how the manager runs it. But, the thing is, those guys are great. They're not Hall of Famers until their career's over, but those guys were great. And yeah, I started my career with 3 Hall of Famers from the rotation, or ends up being 3 Hall of Famers in the rotation, and Greg Maddux, Tom Glavine, and John Smoltz.
Exactly. I know. And I know you pitched alongside Andy Pettit as well, I believe.
I did. For 6 years.
Yeah. Local guy, Deer Park. One of the winningest.
Still consider him a good friend of mine. Yeah.
Yeah. One of the.
I don't get to see him very often though.
Yeah. I don't even know if does he still live in the Houston area?
Oh yeah. As far as I know, he does.
Cool. Yeah. Yeah, Andy, I know he did a short coaching stint with Second Baptist School in Houston. Him and Lance Berkman teamed up. They were there after I left, and that was probably the Lord's hand, because he was probably thinking I was going to bring a bag of baseballs for him to sign or something, because I was still kind of in.
No, you wouldn't do something like that.
Back then, I would have.
Only every day.
Yeah, only every day. Every day that ends with Y. But the Astros historically do like hitting in Fenway Park. But before we talk about that, if you like getting good haircuts and you like looking good, whether you're going out, whether you got that job interview, go to Stay There Barbershop with Ever Cruz and his guys and girls. They are there, 1616 South Friendswood Drive. Mention Back to the Bullpen. You get 10% off your next haircut. And check out ramshirts.com, where you can get your Back to the Bullpen shirt with the QR code, like Mike highlighted earlier.
Not that tired shirt that he's wearing.
Yeah, well,
not that shirt. We're talking about this shirt.
It's been a long day, man. Oh man, if I could.
But you did start school again, right? I mean, you're back. You actually got a job now.
Yes, I'm like the rest of the real world, where like I actually am working.
Summer's over.
Yeah, summer's over and the honeymoon is over, and there is no more bliss anymore. So, but yeah, man, I had all kinds of computer issues today. It was one of those days. It felt like a Monday on a Thursday. But the Astros have had historic games. Like Altuve had his first cycle last year. We know Bregman's hit some pretty big home runs in playoffs. You had that big 7. You come from behind and score 7 runs in the 9th inning to beat the Red Sox in the playoffs. Jordan loves hitting. Hitting there. I just think the Astros have always played Boston well in Boston. And for all intents and purposes, Jose Altuve is hitting, I think, 364 or 384 in his career versus the Red Sox. He's an absolute, Red Sox killer. I was actually on this week with a Boston podcast, and they were like, yeah, Jose Altuve pretty much is the thorn in our side. I mean, he is, who like Albert Pujols is to the Astros. That's pretty much what Jose Altuve is to the Red Sox. But you played there, you pitched there. Is it a tough ballpark to pitch because of that green monster, or do you just have to just focus on the plate?
Yeah. So I played there as a visitor, and I also played there as a home team. I played for the Red Sox twice in my career. And so, yeah, I have plenty of experience at Fenway. To tell you the truth, if you're going to think about the stadium, it's going to be hard to pitch there, because I can remember the first time I pitched there. The first time I went to Fenway, I was actually as a Red Sox. And I remember standing on the mound, and I didn't have a windup. I was out of the stretch the whole time. And I swear I felt that green monster pushing my left shoulder, that it was that close. but you listen, you make your pitches. You pitch how you're going to pitch. Is there a time that maybe the stadium comes into play? Maybe every once in a while, but you still have to attack the hitters the way you're going to attack the hitters. And, the stadium really can't come into play much. And it's not really that different than Minute Maid Park. I mean, the Astros have swung the bat well at Minute Maid at times. It's got a short left field porch. Right field flies a little bit better at Minute Maid than it does at Fenway, but it's a very unique stadium. I always loved it just because of the history and the uniqueness of Fenway. It's a really cool place to play. And listen, there's a bunch of guys on this Astros team that have never played there. And
that's true.
When you walk in, it is unlike no other stadium in Major League Baseball. It is as unique as you can possibly get. And the first time you go in there, it's cool, man.
Now, did you go back and sign? Was it?
I signed it.
Okay, that's cool.
Inside the wall. Everybody signs inside the wall. They've cleaned it up. When I signed it, it was nasty, but they've cleaned it up now.
Now, when you say cleaned it up, I mean, they didn't wipe the signatures. They just,
no. All the names are still there. They did all that, but, before it became the in vogue thing to do, and they started putting cameras in there and doing interviews, it wasn't necessarily the cleanest. It wasn't terrible, but it showed his age. I mean, it goes all the way back to the early 1900s.
So tell me, who's the most famous player that you remember seeing their signature on that wall?
Oh gosh.
I mean, I know it's
signatures. It's thanks for putting me on the spot, Brett. I appreciate that. The signatures are that's to get me back for the shirt. Signatures are weird because most people, I'm one of the few that you can actually tell who signed it.
Right.
Because there are so many people that you just can't. So that's my way of olaying that question. I don't know.
You're like, I'm just here so I don't get caught.
That's right. That's right.
Well, but I know growing up, my dad and I went to a lot of TriStar shows here in Houston. And I noticed a lot of the older Hall of Fame guys, Mickey Mantle, Willie Mays, Hank Aaron, Joe DiMaggio, Ted Williams, they all write like they took penmanship classes, like they took, and you can tell, like you see some, I see some signatures, and I'm not going to say there is one Houston athlete. He's not a baseball player, but a pretty popular athlete in our city. I saw his autograph and I was like, that's his autograph.
They're
like,
brutal.
Yeah,
they're brutal. You're gonna have to I need to see him sign it because I don't believe you.
I even have Barry Sanders, and Barry Sanders looks like a high school kid that writes cursive. I mean, but you can tell. And anyway, so that's I always thought that was cool. Now we've got the Mariners. I really feel like the Mariners are really the only focus or the only hurdle that the Astros really have, because it's either you're in first place or you're out of the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
Would there be, I mean, you wouldn't say there's any benefit to not making the playoffs and focusing on next year. I mean, you want to make the playoffs because you want to get that 8th ALCS. And I think if you get in, you have a chance, right?
Always getting into the big dance. That is the key. I mean, how many times have we seen teams win World Series that get into the postseason limping, or maybe even backdoor it? They've lost, somebody else has lost, you get in. I mean, we've seen World Series champions in that situation. So, it's one of those things that the hardest part of the season isn't winning the World Series. The hardest part is getting to the playoffs, because it's such a long haul. It's such a grind. You're playing for 6 months. Once you get into the playoffs, that's when the fun starts, because now you're on a very limited schedule, a very limited number of teams. And by the time you get to the World Series, you're down to 2. So you look at it that way, it kind of takes the pressure off of you. But yeah, the regular season is the grind. I mean, that's step one of several hurdles that you're trying to get to, which is win a World Series. But it's the most daunting. It's the biggest step. It's the biggest hurdle.
So if we're looking at that, externally, we know it's the Mariners, but internally with the Houston Astros, I would say the right now bullpen usage, and then usage of the starters, because the innings they're logging more innings than they ever have in their career. And I actually looked this up. Taylor Scott has pitched 100 innings in his career. This year, he's pitched 59.1 innings. He's pitched over half his career is in 2024. Yeah. That blew me away when I realized that. So if you're looking at this, Mike, as someone who's saying, okay, we want you to assess, look at everything, cost benefit analysis, where is the most concern? Is it the pitching, or is it like the runners in scoring position? Because the Astros did score 6 runs against the Rangers. They were still terrible with runners. Like, which of those two things is the most concerning as we continue through this gauntlet of August going into September?
Well, if I'm Dana Brown, I don't think there's a most. They're all the most. I mean, it's something you just have to put up with. Personally, that's a hard one, because the pitchers right now, I wouldn't say I'm overly concerned with it. Yeah, maybe it's in the back of my mind, but a lot of the pitchers you're talking about in the rotation, it's okay. Yeah, they've got a lot of innings, but what are you going to do? You're not going to rest them. Right. I mean, you don't sign up to play a major league season this is going to be to protect guys. And I don't want to say that you want to abuse guys, but what is your job? Your job is to win baseball games, to win a World Series if you can, and you got to have your horses on the field. As far as the runners in scoring position and the hot and cold tendencies that this offense has, there's not a whole lot you can do about it. So there's really no reason to worry about it. If you're one of the players that are in it, okay, that's one thing. But if you're on the outside looking in, if you're the general manager, and to tell you the truth, Dana's job's kind of done as far as this season's over. This season is concerned. Because the trade deadline has passed. You can still make your minor league moves, so there's still things to do. But as far as any big moves, you got to worry about the guys that are injured. Yeah, I mean, there's still a job. But as far as him having a huge impact on what this team does, it's really down to the 26 guys on the field. Those are the dudes that have to get it done. And if I'm on the team and I'm talking to a young guy and we start talking about, where you are and the trends that are going on and your scoreboard watching, I'm telling the young guys, dude, we got to take care of ourselves. If, whether, you're in first place right this moment, if you weren't in first place right this moment, doesn't really matter. Season's not over yet. Win our baseball games. If we keep winning series, we'll be where we need to be. We'll be where we want to be, you know. And the scoreboard watching a lot of times is it's a lot of fun, but it also can put additional pressure on guys
Right.
maybe that aren't prepared to handle that pressure. So,
Well,
everybody has to look at it a little differently.
right. And simply put, because those are things you can't control. Like
Mhm.
you can't will another team, as much as I'll joke around on X and I'll say, we are all Tigers fans today, or we are
Yeah.
all, whenever someone is, playing the Mariners. But Zach DeCenzo followed up his major league debut with a 2-for-3 day playing first base.
Mhm.
I mean, this kid, 20 games, 19 games in the minors between AA and AAA, and he gets called up. Not only does he go 2-for-3, but he gets his first double. He scores a run. He gets a walk. He contributed defensively. I mean, this kid, I'm just impressed with his mentality, with the way his whole demeanor. I don't think this is the only bit we're going to get out of him. I think he's
Yeah.
going to be someone who contributes, and I think it helps because you've needed some help for Singleton at first. I don't think Singleton's an everyday guy, and having someone like DeCenzo really, really helps. What are your impressions of this rookie in his first 2 games?
Yeah, so far so good. I mean, he's handled the pressure. It's one of those situations that with where the Astros are in the standings, if he continues to perform, he's going to be on the field. He's going to play. I mean, that's where you are now. Now that you're in the dog days of the season, which is August, and then after August comes down the stretch in September, you got to play the dudes that are hot. And if he continues to swing the bat well and give you quality at bats, I think he's got to be in the game. He's got to be in the lineup. So so far, like I said, so far so good. We'll have to see. Fenway is a little different creature. The Red Sox are a better team. To tell you the truth, in some ways, Fenway may be harder than Yankee Stadium because of the stadium itself and we'll call them friendly confines because the people are sitting in your lap. Yeah, so it's fun, but yeah, it can be a daunting task for a young player that just get called up to the big leagues, and now you're going to one of the most historic ballparks in all of baseball.
And that's the thing. I've yet to make it to Fenway Park. I keep saying this next year I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, but next year I genuinely want to get out to the East Coast and visit some of those stadiums. I worked with a guy one time, Mike, and I'll just share a short version of this story. This guy grew up in Boston, and him and 4 of his buddies, they would all go to the Red Sox games. Well, you would have one of them was the fall guy. The other 4 were the guys that would get in because back then security was very lax.
Right.
So you would get the one kid that would run right in front of the 2 security guards at a certain entrance. And when the second they chase, the other 4 would go in. Well, so he was like, you hated being the guy that was a fall guy because you had to go to 5 and dime and listen on the radio, to the games. But he talked about how he just loves Fenway Park. And this guy said, every time I step into Fenway Park, I cry. I mean, it has an attachment to the people, to the heritage and the culture there. But let's wrap this up with Justin Verlander's getting a start in
Yes.
that is a good thing. Now they said he's going to make 2 rehab starts, and I assume he would be doing it in with the Corpus Christi Hooks because both teams go on the road after their weekend series. The Space Cowboys go all the way up to Tacoma, and the Hooks go to Arkansas. So I would think that the second go to Arkansas, not
wouldn't expect JV to go all the way to the Great Northwest to pitch in a AAA game. I'm not going to say it's there's no chance, but I think it's a long shot.
Yeah, it'd be like, you know what, JV's like, I would rather go to Arkansas, but he's Northwest Arkansas. I didn't even realize. I forget who the team is.
Yeah, I have no idea.
But yeah, so look, first start in these rehab starts. Tell us briefly, like, what are they looking for? Are they just looking for how he feels, his pitch shapes? I mean, what is the purpose of these rehab starts? Because I don't think a lot of people fully understand that.
Well, the first one's going to be, pitch count. How does he feel? You're not really looking at velocity unless velocity is crazy low. And to tell you the truth, you're not really looking at, you don't want him to get shelled.
Right.
But, he doesn't need to go throw shutouts or anything like that. It's more about getting his pitch count in. How do you feel in between innings? How do you feel, going back out after a rest, all that kind of stuff. And he's crossed a lot of those hurdles already, but he's got to, he's got to get over them again. What is the pitch count going to be? I think if he only does 2 minor league rehab starts, I think by the time he gets back in the Astros uniform, you're probably looking at 70, maybe 75 pitches.
Yeah.
But I think just the boost of getting your Hall of Famer back into a big league game is just a huge upside. It really adrenaline burst to help the big league club maybe get on a roll again. And that's what the Astros really need to do. Just take care of themselves and just continue to win series. But, having JV even on the road back is awesome because, Luis Garcia has had another setback. They're not sure what's going to go on with him. Lance McCullers, they've already shut him down again for this year, or at least they've decided he's not going to try and come back again this year.
Right.
He'll still be doing his rehab. So haven't heard a whole lot about Urquidy. So really it's JV, but of all those, and I had nothing against the other guys, but get your first ballot Hall of Famer back in the rotation. That's a pretty good day.
It is. And Kyle Tucker stayed behind at Minute Maid, and apparently they're sending a spot of video, and he likes what he's seen, so he's moving along rather nicely. So there's a lot of things starting to go their way, and where it was doom and gloom about 4 or 5 weeks ago, I remember you saying you still got a lot of baseball left. We still got a lot of baseball left, and people apparently liked you putting me in my place about the playoffs and not freaking out. So thank you for being.
You're the illogical fanatic, and I listen. There's a lot of things I've been called in my life, but being the logical one isn't usually one. But when you and I are together, I'm definitely the logical.
No, I'd take you up a whole notch, don't I? Well, and too, there's something about that 19.
It's about who you put around you. That's.
See, I'm learning. Like, you didn't realize this is like training wheels for me.
That's right.
Seriously, but seriously, thanks, man. I love your insight. Listen, if you're watching and this is the first time you've checked out our channel, please subscribe. Tell people about it. You can get a Back to the Bullpen shirt right there with the QR code from Ram Shirts. We're coming to you live from the Ram Shirt Studios every day. Even if we're not live, we are recording right now. But maybe this next week we can do another live show. I know that people like that. They like the interaction. They like to ask you questions. So, for all of us here from the Ram Shirt Studios and from everybody at Stay There Barbershop, I'm H-Town Wellhouse, and this is another great Back to the Bullpen session.
Adios.
I'm looking to the bullpen to bring my lefty in. Keep the lead and make your team look pedestrian. It's in your wheelhouse, we'll swing for the fence. It's money around here, man, I ain't talking expense. Strike one, heat a low in the way, you can't hit it. You wanna start a rally, but you better forget it. Strike two, off speed, same spot, your car looking. Get ready at the plate, this time you're not cooking. Strike three, swinging out of the zone. You ain't even touch it first. Tell me how they gonna drive you home. Walking back, looking like we ain't cool.